There is so much fear-mongering going on in our world right now, which is why I wanted to make this video on 4 ways you can stay positive in a world full of fear. So hey guys, I'm Laura and I make videos that will awaken your awareness. Now before I get into the 4 ways, you need to understand the scale of consciousness and how this works. Because when you understand this, you will understand yourself on a whole nother level. So we're going to jump straight into it. So here we take a look at the scale of consciousness created by David Hawkins. Now we'll look at, as you can see, like right at the bottom we have shame, and that vibrates at 20. That's a really low frequency to be tuned into. Now if you go further up, you can see here that there is fear at 100. That is still a very low vibrational frequency. If you go further up the scale of consciousness to love, you will see that love is at 500. It's a lot higher than fear, right? Love is your natural state of being. When you are born, you come in at the love frequency. Things happen in life that we give meaning to, and that lowers our frequencies. Now, at the moment, you can see that there is a lot of fear-mongering in our world. We're being told by politicians and by the media to be scared of this, to be scared of that, to be scared of everything, basically. Why? They're manipulating us to be vibrating on this low vibe state at 100. Why? Because it's so they can keep control. You keep control of the masses by keeping them in fear. Remember, your natural state of being is love, which is much higher than fear. So we don't want to be tuned into this frequency. So this is why I'm making this video. You need to understand the scale of consciousness and that there's different frequencies you're tuning into and why you don't want to be tuning into fear. The way our reality works is you get a reflection back of what frequency you were tuned into. If you are tuned into the fear frequency, the reflection you get back is more things coming into your life for you to be scared of. This is why we don't want to be vibrating here, right? If we're vibrating in a high vibrational state like love, then you attract so much more good, positive things into your life. That's what you want, right? So, what are the 4 ways we can stay positive in this world full of fear? The first way is you disconnect from politicians and the media. They are trying to manipulate us to be in fear on purpose. It's a sad view on the world, right? But they push so much negativity through the news. You're never going to watch the news and see positive stuff. That's not what it's about. It's to throw a whole bunch of negativity at you so you're scared of the world and you're in fear. So you're vibrating on the fear frequency so they can keep you under control. If all of us are vibrating in love, they can't keep us under control. They lose the control, right? So if you disconnect, you don't stop paying attention to the government and their fear-mongering. Stop consuming the news, which is always going to be negative. You disconnect from that, you won't be in fear. So here's an example. This is something I thought was quite interesting. So I've looked back and I've seen these news articles or news headlines from when I was a kid, you know, back in the 80s, 90s. And it's like, you know, fear-mongering, oh, be scared of this, be scared of that. And then you realize, like, now it's like, however many decades later, like 30 odd decades later, that stuff that was in the headline that was telling you to be scared didn't even happen. It didn't even happen. This is why I'm telling you, don't buy into this media and politician bullshit, basically, because they're telling you to be scared of things that most likely aren't even going to happen anyways, because you know this by simply, you can do this yourself. Go research headlines from when you were a child, because when you're a kid, right, you're disconnected from the politicians and the media. You don't care about that stuff. You're in the kid world, right? You're disconnected from it all. And remember when you're a kid and you're running around playing and life was great? You know, lollies were like so exciting to have, and playing and frolicking with your friends was so much fun. Watching the news was boring. So the news didn't affect us. We weren't in fear, right? Because we didn't know what we're being told. We didn't know what's going on in the world. You were disconnected as a child. And so you had no clue what was actually going on in the world, or the fear mongering, right? So be like that. Be like the child version of you that's disconnected from it, because it's not going to serve you. Fear is a tool that's being used against us by the government, by the media. The people that run this planet, they know about the scale of consciousness. They know about spirituality, and they purposely haven't taught us about it. And they're using it against us. They're trying to manipulate us to be scared all the time. So disconnect from that, and just be in your own personal world. You don't need to watch the news to be informed either. If you use social media like most people do, you'll be informed enough through social media. But disconnect and just focus on yourself and your own personal world and what's going on there. Now, the second tip to staying positive in a world full of fear, sorry, I need to burp. I do that a lot in my videos, is vibrate with love. So like I said, on that scale of consciousness, love is at 500. It's a really high vibrational state to be in. Fear is at 100. It's really low. So if you can't be in both. You can't vibrate with fear and love at the same time. It's one or the other. If you don't want to be in fear, as I assume because you clicked on the video, then the key is to vibrate with love. And understand that is your natural state of being. That's the frequency you are born with. Like, you come in here at the love frequency, right? That's your natural state of being. So vibrate with love. And it might take a little bit of work or practice. I've been training myself to be, when it comes to other people, I've been training myself to be more loving towards others and less judgmental. I find it can be easy to judge people sometimes, especially if they do something that I would never do. And I think, oh, why would you do that? But then it's like, okay, I'm not going to judge the person because I don't know their circumstances. I don't know what's going on in their mind or the way they're feeling. So it's like I'm training myself to love more and judge less. So the key here is keeping yourself in a love frequency, and there's different ways to do this. There are meditations online that'll get you to tune into that love frequency. So you can simply do one of these meditations, or just find the things that you naturally love, whether it's your children or family or friends or your pets or your hobbies. You know, just figure out for yourself, because it's different for everyone. Figure out what gets you in that love frequency where you're really feeling that love in your heart. And again, I highly recommend doing meditations that help you to get tuned in, because a guided meditation, they talk you through it. So as they're talking you through it, they basically help you to get tuned into that frequency. So I highly recommend doing that. Now, the third tip is you need to get out of survival mode. So you may not realize that you're in survival mode. It turns out that most of us spend 70% of our time in survival mode. So we have two autonomic nervous systems. One is your survival mode one, which is your fight or flight, when there's a perceived threat or danger, right? The other one is your creation nervous system. This is your rest and digest, your calm state. We need to spend our dominant amount of time in the calm nervous system, known as the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your creation state, and less time in sympathetic nervous system, which is your survival nervous system. So to be positive in a world full of fear, because the fear mongering that's happening is manipulating us to be in survival mode. Survival mode is like when you may catch yourself doing this, where you are, like, especially with the pandemic, right? Living prices have gone up, food and gas prices have gone up. So if you catch yourself like going, oh man, look at the price of food. How am I going to afford the groceries? Boom, you're in survival mode. Oh, look at the price of gas. I can't even afford to get to work. Boom, you're in survival mode. Whenever you're going, oh my God, you're like getting anxious about how to pay for your basics, you're in survival mode, okay? And we're being manipulated to be in survival mode. I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but we're in this prison system. You're born with a tax number. You have to work and pay these taxes, yet the money you earn doesn't really match up to the living cost. So it's constantly keeping you in survival mode because you're always stressing, well, most people are stressing about money and their bills and whether or not they're going to have enough. And that's triggering you to be in survival mode, okay? So the key is even with the fear, right? Be scared of this virus. Boom, you're in survival mode. Oh my God, there's a virus that could kill me. I need to stay alive. You know what I mean? It's triggering you to be in survival mode. So you need to understand that you need to shift yourself out of survival mode. And you're like, how the heck do I do that? That's okay. I've already got a video on this. I'm going to link it at the end of this video so you can learn more in depth on how to get yourself out of survival mode. It's not even that hard. I'll give you one tip right now that I'll tell you. Something as simple as just stopping and breathing in really deep in the belly. And then the exhale is more important. You want to exhale longer than your inhale. Just sit down, deep breathe. What that's doing, because like I said, you've got two autonomic nervous systems. One's survival, one's creation. One's the sympathetic, one's parasympathetic. So by deep breathing, you're switching yourself out of the survival mode nervous system and into your parasympathetic nervous system. It's as simple as that. Just acknowledging like, okay, I'm in survival mode right now. I need to switch myself out of it. So I'm going to still link the video at the end of this on survival mode and how to get out of it, because there are a number of different ways you can get yourself out of this, and it's just valuable for you to understand and learn this stuff about yourself. Because like I said, they are manipulating us to be in survival mode. And the other thing is when you are in survival mode, you create diseases and illnesses in your body. It's backed by science, guys. So I highly recommend watching the video at the end of this to learn more about it for yourself, understand how you actually work as a being, okay? And the fourth tip is I highly recommend finding a creative hobby. Why? Because we are creative beings, okay? So we create and manifest our reality, whether you realize it or not. Everything in your life that's happened or happening, you've created. We are creative beings. That's why our parasympathetic nervous system is your creation state. When you are in the parasympathetic nervous system, this is where you are happier and you're healthier. And you have all these positive benefits from it, and you're more creative, okay? So because we are creative beings, it's good for us to have some type of creative hobby or outlet, right? And creation, it comes in so many different forms. So for example, I used to draw a lot. I'll show you a little picture. This is one of my pictures I drew. I used to draw heaps as a kid. And so that's one form of a creative hobby I used to do. Another creative hobby I like doing is I like to write rhymes. I'm into hip hop and rapping, and yes, for a white girl, I can spit some pretty dope bars. And so I like it as a creative hobby because it's, you know, thinking up rhyming words. I enjoy the challenge, but it's also a form of therapy for me to like vent and get stuff out as well. So that's another form of like a creative hobby. Another one of my creative hobbies is I like to bake. I'm good at cake decorating. And with cake decorating or doing like pretty cupcakes and things like this, it's a form of art with food. So it's like, I really like getting creative, making like amazing cakes. I'll post a picture of a cake here so you can see what I mean. It's like art with food. And so you can find, like, there's so many different types of creative hobbies. You just got to find what works for you, what you're into. Find your own creative hobby, because when you're creating, you're in a happy place. You know what I mean? Because like I said, we are creative beings. So I highly recommend that as the fourth tip. So it's almost like disconnecting from the politicians and the media and stop wasting time and energy on that and put the time and energy into a creative hobby, and focusing on your own personal world will help you stay positive and happy while there's all this fear-mongering in the world. And the fear-mongering is here for a reason. That's a whole nother story, another video. But just real quick, because you might be watching this and you may not actually be aware that humanity is actually going through a shift in consciousness right now, which is a massive thing. So I have videos on this, and the fear-mongering is to do with this shift in consciousness. It's part of the process of it all. So if you can understand the bigger picture, that's another reason why you won't buy into that fear. So just don't worry about it. That's the whole point of this video. Don't worry about the fear that's being pushed. Focus on you. Find a creative hobby. Keep yourself up here vibrating with love. Make sure you're not staying in survival mode. Again, I'll link that video at the end of this so you can learn more about survival mode and how you can get yourself out of it. Because you want to be, you know, a happy and healthy person, right? And if you're in survival mode, you're not going to be happy. You won't be healthy. I hope you like this video, guys. And if you've got some sort of value, give me a thumbs up or write a comment. And if you like this sort of content, then subscribe and hit that bell notification, because I drop videos 5 days a week. So I hope you stick around. I hope you have an awesome day. Peace.